remove things if we need to. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Remove things if we need to.
What?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome to the last Ramadan meeting. Inshallah, we'll continue to meet after Ramadan to be announced, but this is our last Ramadan meeting of this year, inshallah. Bismillah. Last time we zoomed in here and we have been reading from this short selection, introduction from the to this chapter called Drop from the Sea of Tawhid, Oneness of God, by Imam Said Nursi, Badiou Zaman Said Nursi. And we had some really packed messages here that we were unpacking. It felt like, crash spiritual growth course in a way. At least the gems are here. We spent time talking about not owning ourselves, and I don't own myself. I'm not my owner. Is a key in our transformation from being living mindlessly into presence of God, inshallah. And last week we talked about and tried to reflect on this important principle that death is real, and there's immense amount of pull I feel from the ego, from nafs al-amara, to run away from that fact, and it's all the more reason to bring us. We need to come back and stay with that fact. We had this additional text to unpack that death being real and how it's important. Contemplation of death, meditation on death is crucial for us becoming more aligned with our real purpose and moving away from hypocrisy. And I'd like to invite your reflections on this as well, if you want to share anything. For me, I feel like a lot of the things that I do on a autopilot, and the real goal, when this week I was kind of pausing a number of times and asking myself, why am I doing this? Just as a thought crossing my mind, what is actually the end game here? And I realized, even if it's something that is actually a good action, nothing against the guidelines that were given. It's not simple. It's actually something that's encouraged, like being charitable or kind and so on. But what is drawing? What is my reason for doing this? And a lot of the time, death is not even in the picture. A lot of the time, it's a shortcut that has happened. That if I'm being nice, because if I'm being nice, the person will like me. If I'm being nice, then I will be known in my workplace as being nice. So, and all of that, when you look at it with the test of death, like, would any of that carry you beyond your death? I mean, it will be valuable if you were to die this moment. Bringing death as a contemplation is can be incredibly helpful in what Imam Nursi was saying here, to turn from hypocrisy into ikhlas, sincerity. And this week also Sister Fatma Noor shared an older receiving your lecture on Ramadan from 5 years ago. Dr. Yamina is talking about around the same time, actually toward the end of Ramadan, talking about Ramadan, and then talking about the Eid, and then the next Eid, Eid al-Adha. She said, it was really nice to listen to it. So it's shared in today's newsletter, that YouTube recording. And sound quality is a bit not perfect, but it is really worthwhile listening. And there, I had the connection from there, but I forgot what it was. Sorry. Yeah, it was just directly connected to what I was going to say, but yeah. So I'll leave it there. Maybe it's a good sign to pause here. Anybody who would like to share anything about contemplation of death, anything that stayed with you, or we can just take a moment to pause and remember that we are all dying, as the verse said. You are dying, and everyone, and they are dying, bound to die, literally. It could also be translated as you're dead, you're dying. And feel free to share.
Yeah. Yeah, Selamünaleyküm. I want to share something. I have a niece. She's about 6-7 years old, and at that age, the kids, they start to think about death, right? And actually, she is now, she is asking me questions about when is Earth gonna die, when is Sun gonna die. So it's kind of, when I first time heard this question from her, I was kind of, oh my gosh. It's not just the death of people or animals, the living things. And she's asking me, what's gonna happen, to the Earth, to the Sun, to the universe, because everything is dying. So yeah, subhanallah. So I don't know. As you said, when we get older and older, everything is kind of on the autopilot, right? So and also it's not maybe the actual death, but I moved to America like 2 years ago. And from Turkey, so I had a beautiful life, I had a job, house, everything. Oh yeah, I mean, alhamdulillah. And then when I came to America, so there's no home, you need to rent an apartment, you need to buy a car, so start from like the scratch, you have to find a job and everything. And so it's kind of, it also reminds me, kind of death, because now it's a new beginning. And you're in a different environment. You're not gonna feel secure anymore, and actually changing a place, alhamdulillah, I kind of like it. I don't like to stay at the same place for like, it's okay, but maybe not for me, because when you change your environment, for example, now I start to work in a high school as a public American high school. I'm teaching bio and chemistry and everything. Sometimes I think myself like I'm in an American movie, so it's not like real. So now nothing is autopilot for me. So it's kind of, I'm processing, I'm learning. Every day is kind of a new, and sometimes I think, am I because all these, because I saw all these kids in American movies, right? I never teach in an American public school before, and
to bring it back to that real kind of what is the word, yardstick, is whether we are living mindful of death, or we are again starting to slip into the idea that we are here forever. And that is extremely interesting, that in the text it said, the nafs ammara imagines being eternal. And it's incredible how we are capable of that. And in this week, I actually I'm teaching a class, I asked students to kind of for a moment think about death. And a number of students said, I used to think a lot about death as a younger person, but now I'm in college and I don't think about it as much. And I have a feeling that, it's a question for down the road, later, even though I don't have any guarantee for tomorrow. I feel like, I'm busy finishing school. I'm busy, I'm trying to get a job, imagine my future. So that is interesting that, as Sister Mina said, the child asks a lot about death because they haven't yet perhaps built those barriers for remembrance. So it is extremely important what death is, and even the death of the sun and the moon. And yet we get into this adulthood and we start imagining that death is a distant topic or not my topic. And for a long time, actually, I felt it's really not my topic. And it might shocking because I've been going to halakas and I've been hearing all of these, but deep down when I looked inside, I always felt like death was, I mean, it doesn't happen to me. It happens to other people. I mean, like, of course, intellectually, I wouldn't say that, but it felt that way. And how do you break that? Because what is the point of knowing so much or mentally, intellectually understanding that I am passing, and yet somehow turn it into a statement that we can put somewhere and move on with everyday hustle, and
it's because it remained a
Mm.
statement. It never became a reality. As a statement, it doesn't do justice to the reality of death. In our mind, we have a distorted perception of death because we never tasted it, we never stayed with it, we never experienced it. So we distort it, we see it as something without saying it, we are assuming lots of things about death, we run away from it. But unless we stay with death and we start being open to experiencing it and then seeing it everywhere, we cannot really be present with the reality of life and how everything is flowing. And with the reality means here the source of life, the source of everything. Therefore, our true self, that is the non-physical side, which is what is contemplating and experiencing and tasting death and life. And so we never get to really, really have that yaqeen, being in the presence of that ghaib that is flowing here and now. So running away from death is, we're missing everything. It's not like death, I will die one day. Yeah, that's part of it, but that's a tiny part of it. I can't hear anything, sorry.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, so thank you. That's a very, very important, helpful highlight there, because you said when it is an intellectual statement, what I understand from what you're saying is that I can affirm it intellectually and agree with it, and yet you said it's not really real if it stays in that level. So when I'm saying death is real and everything is passing, and as you were saying, we are in this constant flow, then if I'm just saying it and I'm not staying with it, that's a good word, staying with it, I'm not staying with it, I'm running away from it, then it's not really real. Even though I say, really, I know I'm passing, everything is passing. I can say that death is real, but it may not be real for me. And I really like what you ended on, Dr. Yamina. You said, if I'm running away from death, I'm missing everything. I'm missing everything. Because in confronting that reality that my ego wants to constantly run away, in that there is my solution, there is my relief. I think it ties nicely into the third point of my Lord as one. We have read this text before and we've been unpacking a bit here and there. So I thought today we could zoom in on this third point. Second one is death is real, and the first one was I don't own myself. And Dr. Yamina had said when she was talking about the first one quick way of sustaining that awareness of I'm not my owner, even though I tend to think I'm doing things. One quick way I remember tip she gave was to nurture gratitude and to be constantly grateful, because the more we are thanking God, the more we are acknowledging that these are given to us there, and the more we're going away from the delusion that I own things, I own myself. So the third one, I thought we could reflect a bit more today, and tying it with death as well. What is it about that we miss if we pretend that death is not real, and if we live with complete distraction from the fact of everything passing, and we are part of this flow. So perhaps we can read this now. Good. Would anyone like to read this for us? Anyone?
I can read it, just the highlighted part.
Yes.
Okay. It says third, my Lord is one. For everyone, felicity of any type is only in submitting to a single Lord, Rabb. Otherwise, one will be in need of conflicting lords among all created beings of the cosmos, for, owing to his comprehensiveness, a human being needs, attaches to, and either consciously or unconsciously feels the pains and distress of everything. And this is a hellish state. As for the gnosis, ma'rifah, of a single Lord, for whose hand of power these supposed lords are but delicate veils, that is a paradise firdaus-like state in this world.
Thank you, Hatice. So any reflection, comment is welcome. It's a very bold, or at least strong statement, saying felicity of any type is only in submitting to a single Lord, Rabb, one Rabb. That is the path to genuine happiness. Sarah.
Assalamu alaikum. So to connect, I guess, some reflections from the past up until where we are now. What I really enjoyed about what Imam Nursi said about death was the death meditation that sort of offers a very real way to sit in something that seems so far So I sat with that idea of, well, how do we, you provided us the guidelines of how that would look like to lay down, and in summary, it was what I got from it was just when you're laying down and you're noticing this beating heart, I just imagine my body letting go into the surface below it so much, as though it's so heavy, as though I'm no longer able to move it. So it's like effectually like a corpse. And then in that moment, there's this very sobering, you don't own anything. Look at me now. I have wala hawla wala quwwa. Like there's nothing I can say. There's nothing I can do. If I wished I could move my arm, I couldn't. If I wished I could say one more word, I couldn't. If I wished there's something I would have said or done, that's it. It's completely, this is my reality. In the same way, so the first thing that we talked about is lastu maliku nafsi, right? I don't own myself. And then the second thing was death is real. Is that right? Was that okay. So I don't own myself. Well, okay. Yeah, of course. God owns us. We say, yeah, of course. We're made. Yeah, we're created. But this is my feeling, and I can't believe this person did this, and I'm so upset. I am so frustrated. In effect, owning the feelings, not realizing that they're coming over me for me to notice and respond to something coming like a, mailman, like Dr. Yamina says, oh, something's landing. Let me see what it says. So we say I lastu maliku nafsi, I don't know myself. We act like this is something light. It's extremely difficult to put a little bit of distance, like we talked about. Actually, I think it was a few Ramadans ago. It was actually probably 4 years ago when my brother passed, that Allah opened up the Ya Baqi and Al Baqi Ramadan series with Receiving Noor, which I highly recommend. Which allowed for us to use this phrase of Ya Baqi and Al Baqi to put some distance between me and this transience, to cut myself off sort of from this. So all things are passing through. The feeling an hour ago I was angry and now I'm back at peace, for example. So the anger, that state died, and here I am. And I don't own it because I couldn't make it go away when I wanted it to go away. And it's just that like Dr. Yamina says, you're kind of noticing these waves come over you, and you have to let them pass, through, and hopefully mindfully engaging with the message. But so as not to extend this comment, I do not own myself. Death is real. And then from death is real now. So if I'm the corpse, and I've seen so many, yani, we've done it so many times, alhamdulillah, now I see the blessing in it because it's very close. Yani, you're seeing someone who was so young. My brother's very close friend passed, and he was his friend's younger brother. So I don't know, 30s, maybe just made 30, or my cousin just made 30. Yani, and now you're looking at them and speaking to them, but they can't talk back. They can't smile if they wanted to. They can't move. The reality is we are all just dwelling in this by his permission. And in a single instant, it's done. It's done in a single instant. And so if every other person, if I see myself like that, like Dr. Yamina says, it's easier to sort of project that on others. Then the great news is that everything that's coming over me, that's happening unto me, even in the relationships, if everyone is just a corpse, yani, then effectually everything is just between me and the one Rab. It doesn't become about anybody. You're not at the mercy of everyone else. You're not even at the mercy of your own burdens. Yani, it's a burden because I think it's mine. I have to please someone or make someone, or I have to deal with this situation. But subhanAllah, you're just the receiver. So anyways, I hope that kind of connects to you like it does to me, but it feels like the word felicity is so light. It's like the only thing taking us away from felicity is feeling heavy or burdened or tethered because of this false ownership that we don't allow to ourselves to let go of, so that we can maybe have some space to, because he says it there, we're unconsciously feeling all the pains and the distresses of everything because you're attached to something, even if it's your own idea of what happened. Oh, because I thought this happened and I can't believe this person did this and again this and blah blah, because you're so attached to your perception. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Sarah. What struck me was the additional point that, well, it wasn't additional, but it struck me that if I can see the transient in myself, I can see it in others. It just something clicked with me because when I think about death and everything passing, it's more like gives me a sense that yes, all of these things that I worry about, I am going and I am passing, and I shouldn't be so distracted. But they are also passing. Like that's part of it actually. That's already in there. But I used to focus more on myself going, as if the world is staying. I'm going. I'm about to go anytime. Yet the world is also moving all the time. And what I think is, like I was thinking, I don't care a lot about what this person says because I'm going. And yet that person is stable and has power. But in reality, death is for everyone. And so I can see it in others. I can hear Dr. Yamina perhaps thinking into herself, like that's what we mean by flow. Everything is flowing. But it's clicking slowly with me. Thank you for sharing, Sarah. And also, as we reflect on everything passing, everything transient like me, then we can't worship them as Rabb. We can't. They seem to be a source of power or benefit or goodness, and that's why we end up worshiping things implicitly, and in reality, everything passing, they also don't own what they seem to have. Yesterday, some of us were looking into this passage from the Quran that said, okay, I'm blanking on everything. But that said that those things that you call on other than God, that was the reference in that verse, and it's a common reference in the Quran. Those things that you call on, تدعون من دون الله, you call on to other than God. And it didn't feel like I'm calling on to anything other than God, because yeah, I only pray to God. No, but actually we are calling on to all kinds of things. And I like this highlight here that we are in that state, feeling endless, consciously and unconsciously, all kinds of pains and distress, in that mode of unconsciously calling on to other Rabb, Arbab, other lords, other sustainers. We think implicitly we are dependent on and in the need of power from this and from that, from this. And that is consciously or unconsciously a source of immense pain and distress, it says here.
Well, before the pain, it's the need. I mean, it's because of our perception. That's why in the Risale Nur, Imam Nursi emphasizes the importance of how we perceive causality, the relationship between cause and effect, because that's where tawhid is going to happen. That's where the beautiful names of God are going to rise. There is no way we are going to experience the beautiful names of God if we perceive things as if they are coming from causes. Like you said, it seems like I'm not calling on to anything, but I'm calling on to the fire to warm my water, my food, cook my food. I'm not doing it consciously, unconsciously, but that's not an excuse, because consciously I was supposed to go through tawhid, to surrender to the reality that that fire doesn't know anything. It needs oxygen, it needs air, it needs everything. All those things are happening for that food to cook. That cooking process is not the result of anything created. It is beyond anything created. It requires endless knowledge and wisdom and power and control and everything that can only belong to that being we call God. At the end, we get to know him as our Rabb. So it starts there, that false perception that we never questioned. Therefore, we never, even when we go through the Risale Nur, we understand intellectually, but are we contemplating? Are we reflecting? Are we making tadabbur? If we don't do that, then in our heart, in our feeling, it feels that it's coming horizontally. It's coming from the thing itself. All our relationships, we are interconnected with so many things and so many people and so. And so it feels like our attachment become horizontal. And if they are the source of our needs, then when we feel we're in control or things are going well, we are not aware, so we don't feel the pain. People may say, where is the pain coming from? But wherever and whenever we are not in control or feel things are not going on our way, our needs are not being met, it could be directly or indirectly, like what's going on in the world right now. It's been going on all the time. We just made more aware of it now. Then we feel helpless and we feel pain, and it's easy to fall into distress. Even when we are calling onto God in those situations, we are calling onto God not with certainty, with gratitude, but with helplessness, with distress, with what if he doesn't answer? I'm still looking, things are still not changing. Where are you? Where are you, God? Where's your mercy? Everything goes wrong. Because from the beginning, our perception, we never questioned it. That's why the opposite of tawhid, shirk, dhulmun azim. But shirk is not, some people believe in 2, 3 gods. No. One means 100% God. How many areas in my life is 100% in my heart? I have no doubt. I am certain this is only from God. Then I wouldn't have those anxieties and fears. Is it then we should never have anxiety and fear? We should. We do. We are human beings, but they don't stay there for years. They come to remind us, to renew our iman, to renew our certainty, to increase it, to apply it to the new situations that come our way. And so because I have that fear, that anxiety, it makes me remember God and renew it in that situation. But if I have nothing to remember, to fall on, I am not grounded in anything, then it stays there. We live with those fears and anxieties, and it becomes pain and becomes distress and helplessness and hopelessness.
The fire example was very, very revealing of how much we, or I believe inside, really, that unconsciously, yeah, of course the fire warms it up. SubhanAllah. So I didn't even, astaghfirullah, we don't even realize the magnitude of, which is a good time to just pause and question with what we're doing. And that was
or pause and be at awe at the miracle of fire, the water boiling, this is cooking. Subhanallah, MashaAllah, Tabarakallah. It's just awesome.
reminds me of what we studied with the 33 windows. Like there was one part of it that said, like, we think that A plus B equals C. And there is some sort of equation that we relied on. Fire, for example, plus water equals boiling. And we're like, yeah, of course. But then if you take each thing and you're like, how? And when we sat with it, because it was a study, which is also available on Receiving Noor's YouTube's playlist that I highly recommend. You sat there with it and you're like, this doesn't make any sense, actually. It really doesn't make any sense that just because you put this with this, now all of a sudden the water starts acting completely different. Like, and I see my 5-year-old, he's like, what does boil mean? And I'm like, okay, just watch this and you're gonna see it's gonna boil because we're gonna wait. It's just shocked, like, what? How? So it's a nice way to pause.
Beautiful names are missing. A huge thing is missing. An endless, eternal thing is missing in between. It's that, they call it the quantum leap. Yeah, but it doesn't happen like that. Someone is doing something there. And that's when we do the shahada. We actually perform the shahada, and it becomes like, it's wonderful, it's amazing, it's you get full of gratitude for the smallest thing, because the smallest thing is a huge miracle of power, as Imam Nursi says, rahimahullah. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it amazing that this is, I used to write it everywhere, that this is happening.
What exactly did you write?
Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it amazing? Subhanallah, MashaAllah, Tabarakallah, Alhamdulillah.
It's really such a good reminder, because then I would say, isn't what amazing? And then it will make me stop, because if I just write, oh, subhanallah, it's like, okay, yes, subhanallah. But if, you ask a question, how is this happening? Or isn't this amazing? And then it does make you, that's a good prompt to really pause and arrive at a.
I write it as a question, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The question is what makes you pause, because you're saying, oh, then my response to your question was like, wait, isn't what amazing? What, the fire? Because yeah, of course, wait. So that's how I can see myself engaging with that question. Thank you for sharing.
Maybe it's related to being fasting and hungry. But when you said the wonder of water boiling, food cooking, I was like, that's actually like really wonderful. Like boiling, cooking, the raw meal is becoming delicious, on the stove, and water is boiling. We can make tea, so it is actually wonderful, but we just light and we say, oh yeah, I'm cooking and I need to make it, on time for iftar, I need to finish this cooking. That's a completely different way of looking at it and saying, wow, this is wonderful that the fire doesn't have to burn. I am not actually, when I turn on the fire, I'm not actually asking the fire to cook or turn this thing into something delicious. I'm actually petitioning my Rabb, who is making this fire, transform this food into something tasty, or this water into something drinkable for tea. Yeah, I mean, this connects right with the verse that we were looking at yesterday with some friends, and it looks like all the verses are coming back to this point. It's interesting. This is from Surah 35, verses 13, 15. I just want to share because it feels like it fits right in here. استعوذ بالله. يولج الليل في النهار ويولج النهار في الليل وسخر الشمس والقمر كل يجري لأجل مسمى ذلكم الله ربكم له الملك والذين تدعون من دونه ما يملكون من قطمير إن تدعوهم لا يسمعوا دعاءكم ولو سمعوا ما استجابوا لكم ويوم القيامة يكفرون بشرككم ولا ينبئك مثل خبير يا أيها الناس أنتم الفقراء إلى الله والله هو الغني الحميد. So it's referring to how day and night are made to follow each other. Actually, maybe somebody could read the translation. Anyone? Okay, I'll read. He makes the night grow longer by shortening the day, and he makes the day grow longer by shortening the night, and he has made the sun and the moon subservient, each running its course for a term set. This is your God, your sustainer. Unto him belongs all dominion. Whereas those whom you invoke instead of him do not own so much as the husk of a date stone. If you invoke them, they do not hear your call. And even if they could hear, they would not respond to you. And on the day of resurrection, they will utterly disown your having associated them with God. And none can make thee understand like the one who's all aware. And then, oh human beings, it's you who stand in need of God, qara ilallah, whereas God alone, He alone is self-sufficient, the one to whom all praise is due.
Because normally our praise goes to, we distribute it to everything else and a little bit to God. Astaghfirullah.
And it's all interconnected. If I think that day and night is just going by itself, and the sun and the moon is just running its course by itself, then it's hard to be in wonder, and it's hard to realize that I'm actually calling
Allah, I won't feel it. It feels like, yes, there is, like in some situations, I feel like I need God. So I can't deny that. And that's why it feels like, oh, I have to make an effort to be grateful to him, to pray to him. It's like I have my life and I add God as well. Just never know, to guarantee the hereafter. It's a totally distorted perception of reality. That's why it becomes burdensome, whereas the reality is so easy, beautiful. It gives light, joy. That's exactly what the Ruh is looking for. There is no making effort to be grateful to God. It's a joy to be grateful for everything. It's a joy to pray and prostrate before God. It's how we express our wonder, our awe, our gratitude, and everything else that we appreciate takes us back to Him. That's why, like, the difference between tawhid and shirk is like light and darkness, eternity and nothingness, not even nothingness. It's just like the ruh is being, how do you say, choked, being starved, or tortured even.
I'm reminded of we're going with the Quran's description of the water that won't satiate you, or the food that will just increase you in hunger, because you were disconnected from your Rabb while you engaged with that in the world. So now you don't have access to the eternal mercy because you thought the thing itself was quenching, or the thing itself was nourishing. So because we learn through opposites, that description is very clear in the Quran. Like, the water is not going to give you, which should make us pause. Like, is the water actually satiating my thirst now? And why it's so important to pause, because if we're not doing it Bismillah, then what are we doing? Like Dr. Amina says, we're running in the wrong direction. We're cooking and preparing and cleaning and doing completely missing the target. Yani, we're running in the opposite direction. And it couldn't be more clear. Like, we're asking for guidance on the straight path, but instead of running to Him, we're calling on the things itself or the people themselves to meet our needs. Which is why He says, no, when you eat Bismillah. Like, before you dress Bismillah. Before you cook, it's Bismillah. And otherwise, like, so I what she said about suffering and torture, like, it's spelled out so clearly in the Quran. And I just love the second ayah you shared. Thank you for sharing these ayat. I really miss our ayat reflections. So this was very nice. The second ayah, إن تدعوهم لا يسمعوا دعاءكم. And ولو سمعوا, even if they could, ما استجابوا. So even if it is a hearing being, they can never respond to you. And then Yawm al-Qiyamah is mentioned. So it reminded me of, like, yes, I am asking the fire to warm my food. Actually, that is a dua. In reality, when I do it, I'm completely mindless. I'm like, okay, turn on the fire, time to cook, boil the water. Yani, it is asking for that to work. Really, I'm not doing it Bismillah. So it takes one moment of putting up one reminder, like she says, one post-it near one thing, to say, okay, yani, who am I really calling on? Because if I tried to light a fire and it wasn't working, then I would say, Bismillah, yani, please Rabbana, make it work. But when it works every single day, all the time, consistently for 30 something years, then you say, okay, alhamdulillah, it's the fire.
And imagine, it just occurs to me, imagine just for 1 hour or just for one day, this water doesn't boil. You know, you heat it, it doesn't boil throughout the earth. What a crisis it would be, you know? Water is not boiling. I mean, it's just an interesting, I don't know, it just crossed my mind, and we'll be like, what? What's going on? And you know, I can't cook this, I can't have this tea, I can't this, like the whole world will be like just
And there is nothing in this world that necessitates it to boil. It has to boil because of this and this. No one can say that, because science is not, it's necessary. Science is just describing what we already found there. Subhanallah. And only when we start questioning these things and we start questioning the relationship between the so-called causes and their so-called effects, and realize that they are just coming one after the other, one cannot make the other, and then we realize that all the attributes that are needed for that result to happen, and we find the true maker, the sustainer behind all, and we live, we testify, and we witness, and we experience the beautiful names of God, and then we can make the shahada. When we say La ilaha illallah, it means La qadira illallah, La alima illallah, La khaliqa illallah, La musawwira illallah. All the names of God are included there. That is Iman. That's why shahada is so important. When we made the shahada, we're making the declaration that I surrender to the true sustainer, the true God. Otherwise, it is, as Imam Nursi emphasizes, that's not belief in God. That's not denying the existence of God. Is not God. In the Quran, again and again, the mushrikun, they don't deny the existence of God, but they live as if there is no God, and they don't want to surrender to God. And if you remember in Surah Al-Mu'minun, Surah 23, when they are about to die, those who, like mushrikun or dhalimun, I don't remember the context, but definitely not the believers, when death comes, then they say, please bring us back to earth. It means they don't deny. They know that there is someone, but they live their own life. حتى إذا جاء أحدهم الموت قال رب ارجعون لعلي أعمل صالحا فيما تركت كلا إنها كلمة هو قائلها ومن ورائه برزخ إلى يوم يبعثون. If you remember that, يعني, those who.
Which verse was it?
It's in Surah 23. It must be towards the end, like in the hundreds. It says, like those, so it's talking about those who don't believe. When death comes to them or is close to them, إذا جاء أحدهم الموت, he's about to die, he says, Rabbi, O my sustainer, let me return. It means return back to life, so that I may do something good. Let me like make up for it.
Verse 99.
Is it?
Verse 23, verse 99.
It means that is not belief. Not denying God is not belief. Imam Nursi, of course, is saying this because it makes sense, and because it's in the Quran again and again. The mushrikun do not deny God, the existence of God, but they deny everything else, and they want to live. All their assumptions are they own themselves, they own their life, they do whatever they want. So what's the point?
Dr. Yamina, can I ask you something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so about the non-believers, because I'm so much into science. I did my PhD in immunology and everything. So as you said, scientists they are just trying to discover the rules of universe, right? Rules of creation. What is the structure of DNA? What is the organization of DNA? The genes and everything, even the astronomy. But then, what I see. I have some friends, they don't believe, they are, very good scientists, and they know, as you said, they know that there's a creator. But somehow they think that if they somehow surrender to God, they are going to lose their power. I, I don't know how to explain it, but they want to be in charge, and they say if somehow they connect, then they think that all the achievements, because they're great scientists, they publish, I don't know, hundreds of articles per year. People kind of adore them all the time, and somehow I think it's the enaniyet. So they think that this power comes from them, even though God exists, God creates all the DNA and the particles and the atom, because there should be a creator. So they cannot deny it, but they don't want to. They want. How can I? Did you get what I? Yeah. So I don't know how to solve this dilemma for them.
But I think it's I don't want to speak on Dr. Yamin as you help, but I think
Go ahead, please.
one thing is to bring it to ourselves. That's similar to what we are doing. It's just in a bigger scale, right? I'm cooking, I'm interacting with things, and I don't deny God, but I also want to continue to see the world as if things are happening on their own, and I am doing things on my own.
Yeah, it's a matter of scale and intensity. It's not like a dilemma that is peculiar to those people. Most people are just a different range, on a spectrum. We are on different ends of the spectrums.
But I think this pain and the stress that comes with our shirk should be like, it should be a waking up call, and yet it looks like I'm not in pain, whereas I am in pain.
Because it's deeply hidden.
We bury it.
And exactly because it is painful. And it comes out only in situations where the routine or things like our walls are broken. And so we have to, and those are either opportunities to wake up, or for some people, it becomes a time for hiding even more, even deeper. In fact, it's Allah waking up call, but yeah, it's very easy to not be present with ourselves. I mean, even with our emotions, like people, how many of us are really in touch with our emotions? We're not talking about the inner core. Emotion is something not that deep. Most people, when there is anger, people think I am expressing my anger, like we should express our emotions. No, but anger is not your true emotions. There is something underneath that is making you angry. Maybe sadness, maybe fear. That's your real thing. But it's easier to stay on. Actually, that anger is there to
Give a message.
give a message, or yeah, if we listen to it, we will find that there is a deeper hurt, a deeper sadness, a deeper, which is again also saying something about what's going on. Or frustration. You get people, you know, work very hard, achieve everything, and then they feel like very frustrated. What's going on? Yeah, because stay with the frustration, you'll find there is a deep sadness, a deep hurt, a deep fear. Always there is fear like all this, because the achievement was to achieve happiness and joy and felicity. But you realize that it's never accessible. It doesn't last. Even that, the moment of success, of achievement, it's only a very ephemeral, I got it. It's like trying to catch a fish, a living fish in the stream of water. Just when you are catching it, it runs, it's slippery. You can't catch it. So, and deep down, the Ruh knows that you cannot be happy with this. This is not what will give you happiness. It's like in the Quran, it says sarab. It's like a, what was sarab?
Mirage?
Mirage, yeah. It's like a mirage. When they come there, they find that there is no water. From far, it seems like, yes, when I do this and this and that, again, horizontally. No, nothing. When I get everything I want, I will be satisfied. No. If you are connected and satisfied, then when you get that thing, it increases our joy, our gratitude. Yes, that's true, but we get it wrong when we think it is from it. It is the source, that shirk, horizontal. Everything starts making sense when it is vertical. Harfi, ismi, what we read at the beginning. And that's why we fear not being in control. If we stay with it, we are not in control anyway. Why don't we just make peace with that and try it that way? But there is fear. Hey, courage is to act despite fear. Otherwise, what's the point? That's why there is courage in Iman, requires that courage, taking action, that sabr, that resilience, that steadfastness. And then eventually you'll realize that, oh, that fear was
unfounded.
But there is only one way to truly how do you say, get over it, is stay there and follow the guidance, the divine guidance. It doesn't happen intellectually. Intellectually, it's like someone is telling you this is the map, and the map really goes to this place. And people went there. And you say, okay, now going without map and going, setting on the trip without map and with a map is a huge difference. But just because I have the map doesn't mean that I am there.
Yeah. So the fear of not being in control is a fear, and yet it's unfounded, because what do we control anyway? I mean, even
the need, because we are, again, I said, we are not in touch with ourselves. My need is not I need to be in control. My need is I need things to be under control. Yes, we have a need for control, but not for me to be in control. as long as everything, when we're traveling, for instance, in an airplane, as long as we know there is a pilot, we don't feel like I need to be
I need
controlled.
to know exactly.
Well, actually, it's better if I'm not, because I don't know how to do it. So we need things to be under control. And there is a huge distortion. It becomes all about me. And me, when the ego does that, the ruh gets, and the heart, the ruh gets really burdened. Because we know we are not in control, and we know what our need is, and we know that what we can do and we can't.
And even when we are deluding about things that we think we control, like I made this food, or I cleaned this, and I did, even that, which is also delusion, because I don't even know how my muscles are moving. Even the act of swallowing requires 50 different muscles that I have no idea. I think I swallow myself. Even if I am insisting and I'm thinking I'm making things happen and so on, it's immense amount of pain, because even that is so limited. Like I can be taking care of my health closely and everything, and yet it just takes a little rupture, one virus, one kind of attack, that cancer that grows somewhere. Like even if you had a really healthy lifestyle, like there's so many things inside you can't control, or like about the global events, it really affects you when you tune in to what's happening in the world, who's starving, what's happening. And we have become more heightenedly aware globally with Gaza and Palestine, but then you hear about Sudan, Congo, and you're like, what? And I, part of me says, I have agency. I'm going to call my representative right now, and I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. And I do. I call and I talk to the staffer, and I sign this, I sign that, I do this and that, and then so then I'm still feeling, consciously or unconsciously, I'm feeling the pain of what's happening over there, and my inability to completely I'm completely helpless, and it's a hellish state, even if you are safe. One of my friends, I don't know if she's in session today, but she's in Turkey. She does some counseling, and after the earthquake, there was a massive earthquake in Turkey last year, and a lot of people have been hurt and died and so on, and they held counseling sessions for people in Istanbul. The earthquake was on the south, far from Istanbul, having significant issues of trauma. They aren't in the earthquake zone. They don't know anybody who has, personally, any relative or friend in that zone necessarily, but they have watched the TV, people under the rubble and so on, and they themselves are terrified. And because we are connected, even if we try to ignore, I'm safe, I'm okay, I'm safe, and they had to do a therapy to them to kind of remind them that you are safe right now. Yes, people have gone through difficult things that they are going through, but you are safe. And because they started feeling unsafe, and that is part of, it's not like a disorder, that's part of what it means to be human, that we are either consciously or unconsciously feeling the pains. So that is a hellish state indeed.
It also connects back to the first point, like Dr. Yamina said, yes, if I think about why I was angry, it's because I wanted to control a behavior and I couldn't. And now there's probably some self-shame or blame of why. Okay. So there's a need to control. And when things are out of control, then there's a sense of panic or chaos. But then if the first point, lastu maliku nafsi, I don't own the sense of need to control. Like I think it's me who needs to control, and then I get so angry when the things are not controlled. And I guess it's because I am owning this need to control.
And it's a good reminder, if we didn't feel it that intensely, we would not appreciate that, alhamdulillah, that everything is under control. The need, that hunger for control is being taken care of. Oh, alhamdulillah. Then we can prostrate before God's awesome control and power and compassion and rahmah and love and wisdom. All things that, many things are beyond our imagination because we cannot comprehend the whole picture, especially when we remember akhirah as well. So whatever we're experiencing right now is a tiny, teeny slice of this endless reality. So we don't pretend to make sense of it. And we can now surrender. We feel the need to surrender. It's not like I'm doing a favor to Allah when I surrender. I'm doing a favor to myself. أنتم الفقراء إلى الله.
Yeah, that connects as to why if I can pause, like I pause with the fire, and if I pause with this need to control, if I can once and try to practice that one more time the next day. I have a need to control. I notice it. Did I make this or am I finding this? Is it mine? Did I make myself this way? No. Alhamdulillah, it's not mine. Alhamdulillah, I don't have to take care of it. Ugh, what a relief. As soon as you said that, I felt like, oh, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, what a relief that I don't have to be the one responsible. Because then you're right, Isra, the phone calls become such a burden. There came a point where it just felt so heavy to call. I'm like, oh, because it was me. I have to call, I have to say it's not going to change anything. Astaghfirullah, then it feels heavy. But then if I do it because all I have to do is my part, I turn on the fire and hope. I don't know, this is how it's supposed to be. I have, alhamdulillah, it's working again, the fire, alhamdulillah. I have to do something because if I do nothing, I'm going to feel despair. I have to do something, so I'm going to call. Bismillah, that's my prayer.
The dua.
And then let it go. Yeah.
You are muted, Dr. Yamina.
No, I just said it's a dua. That's our dua. We call unto God. That's our way of calling through action. Dua fi'li. And the result is from Allah. So I don't keep. It's like if I plant seeds. When you sow the seeds, you don't go and check again why is it not growing? When it grows, it grows.
Mm. Mm. And seeing the only effect from one source, one rub only, and everything else is just a veil to the real source of powers. to see the world this way, to live this way. It's like paradise. It's saying like paradise. So it isn't about toiling here in pain for a paradise that's going to come eventually, but it's painful in this process. No, the paradise starts here, that Firdevs-like state. We could live like that here, and inshallah beyond, and go to the next world with it.
And when there is hardship, it becomes easier to remain steadfast, to have that sabr. The two aspects of iman is hamd and sabr. And during moments of, let's say abundance and goodness, it is hamd, prayer, firstly. But there is also, it's easy to forget, take it for granted. So there is sabr within on hamd. And in times of hardship, it is firstly sabr, but that if it is true sabr, it would lead to hamd as well. So they are interconnected. It's not like there is only sabr, and without hamd, without feeling any gratitude, means I'm not getting it.
Alhamdulillah for these gems, for these spiritual sustenance that we were able to enjoy together today. Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Yamina, for leading this as usual. Jazakallah khair. And Jazakallah khair, Sarah, and everyone else. May Allah make us among those who are surrendering and with this beautiful realization of tawhid and this beautiful way of living, with paradise-like living in this world and the next, inshallah. So I feel that we can maybe pause here for this week. Dr. Yamina, would you have a parting comment or recommendation?
Istighfar, istighfar, istighfar. Lots of istighfar, inshallah. And may Allah put barakah in the remaining days of Ramadan. And Eid Mubarak. And inshallah, let's also remember the 6 days of Shawwal that the Prophet ﷺ insisted on fasting, while we're still used to fasting in Ramadan. Let's do the 6 days of Shawwal, inshallah. And lots of istighfar. When there is hardship, when there is musibah, calamity, then it is a call on istighfar. Istighfar on our, especially misperceptions about Allah and His creating, His creation. And of course about my misperception and what am I not doing that I could do. So when we are in istighfar, we're open, inshallah, to receiving, being inspired, to being divinely guided to whatever Allah wants us to do, whatever that is. It could be making istighfar, and istighfar is just not words. It's an active, something active, inshallah. You can go back to our workshop on istighfar. Very, very important. If you know anyone around you, the more we have in the Ummah people making istighfar, even if they don't understand the very depth of it, everyone is going to do it as one level. But just asking for forgiveness for myself and everyone else in the Ummah, it's very, very powerful, inshallah.
Inshallah. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. So we will. We didn't finish the text. I feel we could continue one more week, or we can consult and announce accordingly. But we can inshallah pause for now. Assalamu alaikum.